told you guys we'd talk more about a tour like it would have been in 1838. So this probably would have been a place. Don't sit on the rocks, please. This would have been a place that you would stop. People have been stopping here for 100 years. We call it the Giant's Coffin. If you look behind me, it looks like the coffin of a giant. But there's no giants in there that I know of right now. So if you were on a tour, you already saw how it would look with our lantern light. It would have been a lot more shadowy and maybe a little bit more mysterious. You wouldn't have had a park ranger for a guide. The cave was privately owned up until 1941. So you would have had an employee of the owner of the cave, or you might have had a slave of the owner of the cave as your guide. There were slaves here in Kentucky up until the 1860s in the Civil War. And so cave owners would sometimes employ slaves as guides because it was cheaper. Our most famous guide here at Mammoth Cave, his name was Stephen Bishop, and he was actually a slave. He was brought to the cave in 1838 when he was 17 years old. And he started guiding from there up until he died when he was 37 years old. And he was actually, he became a very famous man, although he was a slave. He explored many, many miles of the cave. Most of what we're about to go into, it was first explored by Stephen Bishop. So we're going to cross Bottomless Pit. He was the first one to do that. He died, we're not exactly sure how. It may have been tuberculosis. We think it was some sort of illness. There's conspiracy theories that like someone wanted him to be dead for some reason, but we're really not sure. But so he was the first one to cross Bottomless Pit. We're going to do it on a bridge. He did it on just a log with his lantern held in his teeth like this, which would not be comfortable. And then he also found Mammoth Dome, where we're going to go up a tower of stairs. He called that his greatest discovery. So it would have been a little bit different if you were here in 1838. You might have had Stephen Bishop as your guide. You probably wouldn't have had 120 people on your tour. There just weren't that many visitors to the cave because it was kind of off the beaten path. You had to take a railroad or a stagecoach to get here. You had to really want to see the cave.
How did they get up at Mammoth Dome?
They didn't go up it. They would just look at it and turn around. If you're here in the early 1800s, you've just got a group of 10 or 20 people with maybe 1 or 2 guides. You're exploring through the cave. You guys are in here for 2 hours. Do you guys think that sounds like a long time? What about 6 hours? What about 10 or 12 hours? There were cave tours that could have been that long. They would cross the underground rivers. They would go all over the cave. And it was also much slower going because you weren't on nice flat paths like this. You might have been climbing over rocks, breakdown like this. What if you wanted to leave behind your name in the cave? What if you wanted to make your own mark in the cave like other people have done? Today you couldn't do that. It's a federal offense to write your name on a cave wall right now. But if you were on a tour before 1941 and the cave owner allowed it, you maybe could have written your name somewhere on the wall. And so you can see signatures all over Mammoth Cave. We've got some on the Giant's Coffin here. Kozad, we're not really sure who he was. Dr. J.N. McDowell, 1839. We do know who he was. He was a friend of Dr. John Cron, who owned the cave at one point in 1839. So there are signatures all over the cave. A lot of people who left behind their signatures gave their guides a tip to do that. So especially if your guide was a slave, that was the only kind of money that they would be able to make. So they were more than willing to let you give them a tip to write your name somewhere. So maybe you would have scratched it onto the wall like these guys did, or you could have written it in candle smoke. So when we get further up, you're going to see some writing mostly on the ceiling. It kind of looks like it was done with black spray paint. It wasn't spray paint, it was actually candle smoke. Your guide might have a smoky animal fat kind of candle that they would tie to a stick and then hold it up to the ceiling and just make little dots and write your name in for you. Every now and then you'll see one that's backwards because the guide was doing it with a mirror and it didn't turn out quite right. I don't know if they got their tip back or not for that. So very different tours in the early 1800s, but you would have been seeing the same things that we're seeing now. Just maybe not as nice a trail, and probably a whole lot more things that you would have seen. So do you guys have any questions?